Okay, we are here with our SMC board chair, former state senate candidate, and former co-president of the club, Shai Roy. Thanks for joining us, Shai, running for re-election. Do you want to let us know why you're running for re-election now?
Yeah, I want to just start by saying thank you to the club. Thank you to so many people on this call who supported me during, my state senate campaign, and just really grateful for that. And you know, trying to wrap my mind around running for re-election. Obviously what happened a couple weeks ago was within the realm of possibility, but it wasn't expecting it. And so one of the positives is being able to stay engaged at Santa Monica College. We're going through a difficult period at the college this year. And so it'll be I'll be grateful to be a part of what the positive that comes out over the next couple of years as we kind of rise up from this, the nadir that we're in right now. I'll leave it at that, but I do want to just make sure, I'm going to call each and every one of you, but, thank you for everything over the last, well, I shouldn't even say the last year and a half, probably, the last 15 years, but yeah.
hmm Thanks, Shai. Let me just start by asking you directly, since you just ran for higher office, can we count on you to serve for the full 4 years of the term if you're elected?
Yeah, I don't see a scenario, where I wouldn't be able to serve.
Okay, great. So now I want to ask you real also about the recent budget shortfall vote that required layoffs. How did the board get to the point where that happened? And if someone is upset about the long-term fiscal mismanagement of the college, why should they trust you for another term to continue managing it?
It's a multifactorial thing. There's, the term fiscal mismanagement, I think, simplifies a pretty complex situation that has been impacted by things that have happened over decades. And, that are, some of them are within people's control at the college, some of them are circumstantial. And, this year's actions were very difficult. And, the college was not cohesive in terms of, so one of the questions I think on the questionnaire was about the communication, to the college community. And part of the reason that we weren't able to be deliberate in our communications was the administration and the seven trustees were not always on the same page as we were going through. And so there was uncertainty at every step along the way over what was going to be happening. And I think everybody who was participating in all these conversations and these actions were well-meaning and had their own perspectives. But there was, uncertainty over what was going to be happening. And, looking back, I think, there were multiple things that happened in our budget over the last 10 years that have helped us. COVID, some of the monies helped sort of kick the can down the road, in a very significant way. And, over the course of the last decades, even prior to my being on the board, there were other one-time monies that helped kick the can down the road. What have really affected us are the since Trump first got elected, the huge decline in our international student population. And so that has really hurt us. The state budget has hurt us as well. It was one of the reasons I was running for state senate is to really advocate for community colleges up in Sacramento. Hasn't been a priority. And so those two things, the decline in enrollment that were impacted by immigration, impacted by COVID, all of those things, as well as just the general state budget situation really impacted. And looking back, I don't think that there was one vote that I took prior to this year that I would say I wouldn't take it again, knowing the information I had at that time. I always try to start with the people that all of these votes affect, and work backwards. And, retrospectively, you know, uh, of course, offering pay raises, things like that, can be retrospectively criticized, that those are easy things for people to do. But at the time that we made those decisions, I stick by my vote. And we're talking about real people with real families and real jobs. And I felt like we were in a position to potentially, to reward them in the way that they're deserving. And this year took a very hard vote in terms of the layoffs. It was a politically very difficult vote. It impacted my own state Senate race, but I thought I did what was right for the long-term outlook of the college, and that's the job. So, I'll continue to do that as we try to navigate some, difficult waters over the course of the next months, and years.
Okay, thank you. Sean.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Roy, for being here. I have a question about
Sean,
LGBT
have you ever
students
called me
and
Dr.
LGBT.
Roy before? Yeah.
Maybe not, I don't know. But how have you advocated as an ally for the LGBTQ community, and what steps and what measures are you putting in place at the college to include diversity and inclusion and support for the LGBT community within that space?
So, I think, I've had a long history over my 15 years in this district over being a supporter of LGBTQ rights, being a visible supporter for our large LGBTQ populations in and around Santa Monica. At the college, what I would say is that the most visible thing we've done, beyond supporting our students, faculty, and staff in very visible ways who are LGBTQ is, we've developed bathrooms, over the last couple of years through our bond money that were inclusive and allowed people to feel that are going to allow people to feel safe and in an inclusionary way. And that's been the most significant thing at the college, I think, beyond the sort of progressive nature of a lot of our leadership who are very supportive of our vulnerable student populations, LGBTQ and otherwise. But that's been the most significant thing, I think, at the college that's come up over the last, handful of years.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to Isabel next.
Hey, Shy. I'll call
Hey,
you
Isabel.
Shy. Um, so we talk about the difficulties facing the College Board, which are very real. But you have been on the board. I'm looking at 9 years.
I think
During
eight. I
that,
think this is my eighth year.
is it? Because
Yeah.
since 2017. But
I think
okay.
I got elected and I got, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I think it's my, eighth year, but yeah,
all
anyway,
right. Let's
doesn't
just
matter.
say
Yeah.
I don't know. Since
Yeah, yeah.
2017. Okay. Um,
Don't age
anyway,
me, Isabel. Don't age
what?
me. Don't age me.
Oh no. I mean, you were just 20 years old when you started, so kidding. Anyway, it's like these difficulties facing now. Looking back over your tenure, on this board, what do you feel are your strongest achievements? What are you proud of? What do you think you achieved during this time?
From a personal standpoint, I think that the two things that I'm really proud of are, we've expanded healthcare workforce programs at our college. We developed two healthcare workforce programs in my 8 years. It was something that prior to some of these fiscal issues that have limited our the expansion and innovative programs in the last couple of years that we were able to do in my first term. Additionally, COVID was a big impact on the college. And so, being able to be, a physician member of the board during COVID was a really worthwhile experience because, beyond the healthcare implications, obviously the educational implications of COVID and the measures taken to combat COVID were complex. And so, I think those are the two things that I would be, sort of most proud of to have been part of the leadership at the college with.
Okay, let's go to Keith.
Can I
Hey,
add one
so,
more? Sorry,
yeah,
student
go for it.
housing too. When I started in 2016, I think me and Barry were probably the only two, big proponents for getting a student housing project at the college, and now we are, very much at the finish line. I do I do feel confident that within the next 5 years we'll have a finished project where we have, where we'll have students being able to stay in on-campus housing. Sorry, Keith.
No worries. Hey there, Shai. You actually just spoke to the healthcare workforce development pipeline, which was part of my um, kind of statement, but question. But the job market for undergrad students, whether they're part-time, non-traditional, first gen, or what have you, it's really convoluted and it's kind of negatively disruptive right now. So I was just curious, kind of what thoughts did the board have? What thoughts do you have about really trying to shore up opportunities for students coming out of the college, so that they can compete and or start their own companies, so that they can, move forward and have a sustainable quality of life.
Well, I think that, it's funny, the thing that the college touts the most is we're the number one, transfer, you know, um, college to UC, to Columbia, to a number of places. And I think that's great. But that's not for that doesn't those statistics don't capture the majority of our students who go to our college and other community colleges, not necessarily to transfer. And, I think that workforce development is, it's not just a Santa Monica College, you know, intention to expand. I think it's, sort of this educational paradigm that's going to be throughout California, throughout the country that is evolving, that's expanding. And it's, sort of going back to, finding what community needs are, matching students who go to community colleges are, don't rack up the debt, the incredible insurmountable debt that so many students, rack up at four-year institutions and without a job necessarily to help repay that debt on the other end. And so really just, trying to personally meet the goals of each individual student and, introducing them to worthwhile careers that help, allow them to live in the communities that they want to live in and meet the community needs. And so, those are, right now, because of our fiscal situation, we're not in an expansive, sort of mode at the college. And, I hope that once we are stabilized, that, I know that we're going to get right back to that innovation of workforce development that I think will be a benefit for our students, but also for our community.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. And just one kind of other piece of 2 cents is, now is a time, since the challenges do exist, to find those new allies, perhaps, and additional partners that believe in Santa Monica College's ethos and its mission, to sort of help the college continue to provide those opportunities for students. There are a lot of folks that are out there prepared to do so, I believe. I'm familiar with the relationship with Altasea and the push on the blue economy, which is really also the green economy. So I think there are partners out there that could really help SMC now more than ever to continue to do good things. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to Lynn.
Hi, Shai.
Hey, Lynn.
I believe that Santa Monica College has a great emeritus program, and I'm just curious to know if the emeritus program was affected by the layoffs, and if so, how many teachers in that program were laid off, if any?
It was affected. I don't want to quote you incorrect statistics. So I won't give you a number, but there was an effect on the Emeritus College as well. And I'm committed to to making sure that the Emeritus College is stabilized and and then expand programs not only here in Santa Monica, but on our Malibu campus, the emeritus programs that are offered are hugely popular, and there's a big push in that community to want to expand emeritus programs there. And so in both Santa Monica and in Malibu, it is, in terms of the community facing, part of the college, it's I would arguably the most important thing. And so I've taught at the Emeritus College before I was on the board. It's something I really value. And so we'll look to definitely stabilize and expand programs at the Emeritus College. And it's a big consideration. It's not some sacrificial lamb or anything like that, with the budget cuts. It is definitely valued.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, last question.
Hi, Shai.
Hey, Kay.
So addiction touches the lives of many, including students. Can you explain what your understanding of harm reduction is?
Harm reduction is, once, people, I mean, there's two aspects. There's a preventative aspect to it. And, once people have addiction issues and, I've had family members and, I have had experience with this, it's to reduce the potential for harm, once they have their addiction issues. And so, with harm reduction, so that they don't have the worst possible outcome, overdose and, and death, in an acute way that was unintentional. And so that's the, biggest, thing. And, it's a complicated problem, in terms of mental health, solutions. I'm really hopeful that over the next few years, the Prop One, money that has been spent, that has been passed by the voters, 2 years ago, and as local governments use that money to expand mental health resources, that there will be an impact there. For, not just our students, faculty, and staff that are affected by addiction, but, our community members. So I'm hopeful that will happen. And it was another part of the reason, I was running for state senate because the mental health issues really have a big overlap with, just health issues in general. And in terms of the, including the budgetary use of, funding. And so, it's something that definitely affects many people at the college.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Was there a reason for that question that I should be aware of?
Yeah.
No.
What's that? Was there something happening at the college? I just wanted to, yeah, in terms of context.
No, I guess just that that with harm reduction, it's more that instead of for some people, abstinence or saying that don't drink anymore, don't use drugs. For some people, they're able to do that, but with other people, taking the approach that you should distribute things like Narcan, or take the approach that understanding that that maybe that a person's not ready to be able to accept
Yeah.
things like that. So providing counseling and meeting people where they're at is it's sort of like the theory and the approach. Because for some people, they're not ready to go down a road of like AA, not that that's not like a valid program. So for students, services like distributing Narcan or having other forms of like counseling and therapy might be something to explore.
But there's nothing specific about something we have or haven't done at SMC that I should be aware of that prompted that question.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Uh, uh,
I just want to tell Shai that I'm grateful that Kay is asking that of nearly every candidate. So because it's such an important view of the world as it exists today.
Yep.
Okay. So thanks for stopping by, Shai. I appreciate seeing you as always.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys.
All right. See you later.
Bye.